Hi everyone, and welcome to Ethel Chocolates in our botanical cactus garden. If you've never been here before, you're in for a treat. So come on, follow me and we'll show you around. So if you haven't been here before, we're going to take you on a journey. This is our 3-acre botanical cactus garden that was planted back in 1981 by Forrest Mars Sr. upon his retirement. It's grown over the years. It didn't start like this, but it's quite expansive with over 300 different species of southwestern plants. It's really a fun adventure for everyone in the family, especially in the spring when everything's blooming. And we wanted to show you specifically this one plant here that is our very favorite cacti, St. Patrick. And St. Patrick was named because he was planted on St. Patrick's Day. He is sort of our tent pole here, and we talk about him whenever anyone's coming to visit. So make sure if you come, get a selfie with him and post it on Instagram for us. One of our favorite parts of the garden is what we call the Nevada Zone, which is located right here at the corner of Satin Cream Crossing and Classic Cove. These are all plants that are native to the Mojave Desert where we reside, and it's just really beautiful and nice to see that we can support some local plants here in our garden. So some of you may know that the saguaro cactus is not native to Nevada and the Mojave Desert. We have, however, had the ability to bring a few in and get them to grow over the years. But one of the things that's really interesting about this section of the garden is that these are the skeletons of the saguaro. So they live to be about 150 to 200 years old, and then after they start to die off, this is what's left.
During the holidays, our pavilion is set up with Santa Claus and is free and open to the public. We have him available almost every night for pictures with Santa. And then for family entertainment, our corral is decorated with games for the kids as well as food trucks.
Here at Mars and Ethel Chocolates, sustainability is critically important to us. That's one of the reasons we're proud to have a 4-acre solar garden right here on site. Given all the sunny days that we have here in Las Vegas, our solar garden produces enough energy to power our factory during peak production hours. So the good news is you're tasting a chocolate that's not only delicious, but it's doing good for the environment too.
Are a magical time for everyone, and we here at Ethel Chocolates try to take it up a notch in our cactus garden. So every year, starting in September, our team of gardeners start the process of decorating the entire cactus garden with over 1 million LED holiday lights, transforming it into a winter wonderland. If you've never been here in November and December, we highly encourage you to stop on by. Like I said, it's free and it's an experience you will never forget.
Years ago, a mysterious man lived in the Nevada desert on the outskirts of Las Vegas, mostly keeping to himself and enjoying the quiet life of retirement. But this was no ordinary retirement, and this was no ordinary man. His name was Forrest Mars Sr., and in a previous life, he had built the famous Mars Company into a candy empire. As a young boy, Forrest used to watch his mother, Ethel Mars, make the most delicious batch of chocolates. His early experience with this delectable craft helped him to eventually become the Candy King, the creator of popular confections such as Snickers, Mars Bars, Milky Way, and of course, M&Ms. When the time came, he left the company in the hands of his 2 sons, moved to Las Vegas, and slipped into the quietude of retirement. Except he didn't stay retired for too long. He had one more wonderfully delicious creation up his sleeve. Forrest Sr. decided to start a whole new chocolate company. But he determined that it would be different from the other companies he once managed. He wanted to create gourmet chocolates in the fine European tradition. He wanted them to be the most exquisite candies the world had ever tasted. And most importantly, he wanted to make these delectable delights with no preservatives and in small batches, just like his mother did back when he was a boy. So he came out of retirement and started a plan to build a company that honored the chocolate tradition of his family. Along the way, he persuaded 2 of his former Mars associates to join him. They too were retired, but they agreed to help. Forrest Sr. wanted to produce the very best chocolate candy. For over 2 years, the team planned the operation. They designed a factory around cleanliness, simplicity, and uncompromising quality. The very principles that made the chocolates that Forrest enjoyed as a boy so wonderful. Finally, in 1981, the very first chocolates began moving on the long, white belts of the factory, and Forrest Sr. named the company after his mother, Ethel Mars, who died less than a year before the grand opening. It was, after all, a tribute to the rich chocolate heritage that she instilled upon him at such a young age. And thus, Ethel M. Chocolates was born. As Nevada's first chocolate factory, Ethel M. quickly became a tourist attraction for millions of visitors. And soon, another attraction at the factory opened in 1989. The iconic Cactus Garden was also a first for the state. It was born out of Forrest Sr.'s love for the desert and the beautiful plants that sprung up in the area. It was a small garden at first, but it has since tripled in size. Today, it features 300 species of plants over 3 acres. More than 3 decades after Forrest Mars Sr. started Ethel M., our chocolates are still made with no preservatives and in small batches for a pure, delicious taste and smooth texture. And the founding principles of cleanliness, simplicity, and uncompromising quality are still strongly in effect today. Because of Forrest Mars Sr., a man with a passion for all things chocolate, the legacy of Ethel M. lives on.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 27th Annual Holiday Cactus Garden Lighting Ceremony here at Ethel M. Chocolates. My name is Vannerson, and I'm the Marketing and PR Manager here. And we are so pleased and excited to be able to welcome you here again tonight to our Cactus Garden, whether you're virtually watching from home or if you're one of our first responders here live with us tonight. We have a great event planned for you. It's a little different. It's our first virtual event. But no worries, it'll be fun and magical, and everyone will leave very pleased and with a full belly. If you purchased our VIP tasting kit, please make sure to have your hot chocolate tin and your boxes of chocolate ready for you so that you can follow on throughout the night as we move along. First, we will be taking you through a tutorial of how to make the hot chocolate. Then we will be lighting the garden, and then we'll be doing our chocolate tasting. If you didn't have time to purchase the kit though, no worries. Please go ahead and stay on as long as you like and follow along and take notes. And if there's something that interests you, you can always go to ethelm.com tonight and place your order. So with that, I am going to introduce you to Mark Mackey, our Chief Chocolatier. He is going to be taking you through a demonstration with someone, a special guest that you may recognize tonight. Mark is the mastermind behind many of our delicious chocolates here, and he's going to show you beautiful ways you can decorate your hot chocolate and sit back, relax, and have a nice cup with us tonight. Also, if you hear that plane, and you've been here before, you know we're in a very popular flight path here. So we will do our best to project and talk loudly so everyone can hear us at home. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Mark.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm so excited to be with all of you here tonight to share with you how to make our delicious gourmet hot chocolate, as well as share some tips and tricks that'll help allow you to be the star in your own home kitchen.
Hi, Mark. I know Santa's there helping you celebrate the season. I just wanted to tune in and watch you make your famous hot chocolate.
And I'm really glad you're here, Mrs. Claus. To all of you out there with our tasting kit, go ahead and open up your hot chocolate tin. In order to craft the perfect hot chocolate, we've taken our Ethel M bittersweet dark and creamy milk chocolate and blended them together in the perfect proportions and grated them fine so that it melts very easily and quickly in your milk on the stove. Now, all you need to create our delicious hot chocolate is milk and our hot chocolate tin. Or if you're like me and want to get a little more creative, I'll show you some tasty variations in just a few minutes. So let's get started. I'm starting by heating milk in a saucepan, and I want to heat this milk until it's about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. It's really important not to overheat the milk. Anything above 160, 170, you may develop some scorched or brown notes that are not going to translate very well in your finished hot chocolate. So try to keep it around 160 degrees. Now I'm using whole milk here today, but if you'd like, you can substitute in a little bit of cream or half and half for some of the milk and create an indulgent sipping chocolate or even a chocolate shot.
That sounds delicious, Mark. But I was wondering, me and Santa are trying to cut out some dairy because some of our elves are like lactose intolerant. So is there any other options that we could use, like almond milk or soy?
Absolutely. You could even try oat milk or coconut milk.
Oh, okay.
All right, so my milk now has reached about 160 degrees. Now I'm going to turn off the heat and I'm going to add my hot chocolate. So I've got about 4 cups of milk here, so I'm going to add 1 cup of shaved hot chocolate. It's about a 4-to-1 ratio. Now this scoop is about 6 ounces, so I'm going to actually add a little bit more than 1 scoop. Take my whisk. See how quickly and nicely that shaved chocolate melts right into my milk. Right. Beautiful. Now it's done. And at this point, if you want to, you can go ahead and serve, or if you want to add a few drops of peppermint extract or natural peppermint oil or mint oil, you can make this into a delicious peppermint hot chocolate. Now it's time to serve. For my first hot chocolate, I think I will make a peppermint version using a natural peppermint oil or peppermint extract. So I'm going to add 1 drop to every cup of hot chocolate that I'm making. So because I have 4 cups, I'm going to add 4 drops of peppermint oil to that mix. And now I'm going to decorate my mug here with some of the hot chocolate that I've melted down in the microwave. I'm going to take my glass here, just dip it just a little bit into that melted chocolate. Swirl, just kind of shake some of that excess off. Okay. I'm going to dip it into, these are crushed candy canes, but you can use peppermint pieces as well. And there you go. Something also that you can try, if you want to add a little bit of creative flair to your mug, this is just a regular fork. And I'm going to take some of that melted chocolate, kind of get a little bit on my fork, not too much, and basically just kind of string the inside of the mug a little bit. Just a little bit of chocolate there. All right. Now this you'll want to place into the refrigerator for about 4 to 5 minutes just to set up, and then it will be ready to enjoy with your hot chocolate. Through the magic of television, I've got one here that's ready to go. Take my hot chocolate over here. Excellent. Garnish with just a little dollop of whipped cream. And a piece of our delicious Ethel peppermint bark. What do you think, Mrs. Claus?
I think the elves are gonna love that one. You know, they try to stay to the 4 basic food groups, which are Snickers, M&Ms, pumpkin pie, and candy canes. So they're gonna love that one.
Don't forget to add Ethel M to one of those food groups, Mrs. Claus. So for my second cup, I think I will make a s'mores version by, again, rimming my mug in a little bit of Ethel M melted Ethel M hot chocolate mix. And instead of peppermint, I think this time I'll rim the glass in some crushed graham crackers. So you can see how nice and beautiful those look there. And I've also strung a little bit of chocolate on the inside of the cup to add a little bit of a garnish there, a little bit of flair. Fill this guy up. Garnish with a little bit of whipped cream. I think maybe a few of these toasted marshmallows. I toasted these really easily in my oven at home using the broiler setting, and just toasting those marshmallows for a few seconds, between 10 and 20 seconds. Be careful to watch, otherwise you might end up toasting your marshmallows a little bit more than you'd like. But just watch those and they'll come out really nice and beautiful. I'll add a few of those to the top of my mug here, and I think maybe just a little bit of a sprinkle of some more crushed graham crackers to the top. Excellent, that's our s'more hot chocolate. So for our third cup, I thought I would kick things up a little more by making an adult version of our hot chocolate. Maybe for Santa and Mrs. Claus over there. So with this version, what I'm gonna do is add a tablespoon of my favorite liqueur per cup of hot chocolate that I'm making. So Bailey's, rum, or what I like to do actually, my favorite way is actually to add 1 creme liqueur to your hot chocolate mix for every cup of hot chocolate that you're making. So I will add, let's see here, I think my favorite is our milk chocolate rum. I'll go ahead and add that to my mix here. And you'll want to make sure to mix this very well so that the creme liqueur melts beautifully. All that delicious creme liqueur center will get incorporated throughout the hot chocolate. Now this glass I've rimmed just in a little bit of melted chocolate and drizzled the inside with some additional chocolate as well. This one, I think I'll garnish, well, of course we'll do a little bit of whipped cream here. I think maybe I'll add, I'll add a little bit of our chopped pecan brittle. And maybe just a dash of, I've got a little bit of cinnamon and ancho chili spiced there, just sifting a little bit of that on there. There you go. What do you think, Mrs. Claus? Does this recipe have enough kick for you and Santa?
Yes, we would love to enjoy this one, but we have some elves that are a little underage. Do you have a non-alcoholic one that still has a kick to it?
Absolutely. So for this version, I'm going to take 1 dried chili. This is a guajillo chili pepper, but you can use California, New Mexico, whatever you can find in your local grocery store, and a cinnamon stick. And what I'm going to do is, when I first start making my hot chocolate and I'm warming up the milk, I will add the whole chili and the whole cinnamon stick directly to my sauce pot here. and let them kind of simmer together for about 8 to 10 minutes. That's going to allow enough time to impart all that delicious flavor and volatile oils from the cinnamon and the dried chili to get into that hot chocolate mixture. And then you can go ahead and strain those out, and your hot chocolate is ready to go. And with this one, you can serve with a little bit of whipped cream, maybe garnish with a little bit of that ancho chili and cinnamon powder mixture that I garnished on our last cup, or even some cocoa powder would be great.
Wow, this one sounds so warm and cozy. The elves are going to enjoy this one. It's perfect for Rudolph too. He loves cinnamon. So Mark, I had a question. I noticed it said shredded chocolate. Is there anything else we can use this for?
Great question, Mrs. Claus. Because our mix is so versatile and it's actually 100% grated chocolate, you can use it anywhere where you'd use melted chocolate or chocolate in general. Try sprinkling it over your favorite ice cream. You can mix it into your favorite brownie or cookie batter, or even melt it down like I shared with you a minute ago and use it to dip your favorite fruits, or even decorate the outside of your glasses like I shared with you just a few minutes ago.
This sounds so wonderful. Thank you, Mark.
Absolutely. Now that all of you have your hot chocolate ready, I think it might be just about time to turn on our cactus garden lights. I'll hand it back over to Viviana Dickieson, Market Director for Ethel Chocolates.
Greetings all, I'm Viviana Dickieson, Market Director for Ethel Chocolates. And welcome back outside to our 3.5-acre cactus garden, where we're about to treat you to our cactus garden lighting in its 27th year. This year's celebration is a little bit different. We sent out invitations for nominations for outstanding local first responders. 20 of them were randomly selected and are here today with their families. Our first responders will be the first to walk through our cactus garden lighting, as well as you at home. This year has been a challenge, and we know that now more than ever, it's very important for community involvement and partnership with nonprofit organizations. And we're very proud to once again partner with 2 outstanding nonprofits here in Clark County. 3 Square Food Bank, since 2007, has been collecting and donating millions of pounds of food to end hunger. We will be collecting non-perishable foods throughout the season. Help of Southern Nevada, since 1970, has been helping families that are poor and in crisis. And we will be collecting new unwrapped toys throughout the season as well. And now it's time to light up our garden. But before I do that, I've got somebody to invite up to stage that we all know and love. Santa, come on up.
Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. It is so wonderful to see you. Welcome everybody, and thank you for being here. It is a pleasure for me to come down from the North Pole and kick off the holiday season with my favorite folks here at Ethel Chocolates, my favorite place in the desert. Now, I know that Jessica and Brian and Seth and Jackson out there, you've been very good this year. In fact, I checked my list and checked it twice. Said you were very good. So I look forward to seeing you soon. Now let's have some fun.
Santa, are you ready to light the garden?
Oh, wonderful. Absolutely.
Are you ready to count down?
I am ready.
All right, well, let's do it. Ready?
Here we go.
5, 4,
3, 2, 1. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Steve. Good to see you. Well, we have a lot of folks at home who are so curious to learn more about our garden, and especially how long you've been our head gardener here.
Well, I've been with Marzine for over 30 years.
Wow.
I've been here at this site for 20 years, 20 plus years.
Okay.
As far as head gardener, I've been here for 13 years as a head gardener.
That's
I know
amazing.
that because I turned 63 last Tuesday. So
happy belated birthday.
That marked my 13th year
That's
here in the
great.
garden.
That's great. So how has all this transformed over the years?
Over the years, this knoll that we see to our left and to our right was the original just extension of the decorations in the factory shop. From there, they said, well, let's expand it out to the next section, until now we're 3.5 acres.
That's amazing.
Of lights. So we're twinkling 1 million plus light impressions each year.
That's great. So how long does all this take to get the garden ready, and when do you guys start?
We start really way back in September. The actual lighting, putting up the lights itself takes us 6 weeks.
Okay.
By the time we put all the wire ornaments out, all the lights, all the trees, that takes 6 weeks. But we start in September, testing lights, seeing what it is that's broken from last year, that we've got to repair, and fix it for this year. So that's 6+ weeks, almost 8 weeks a year.
Wow.
Putting them up. And then in the spring, it takes us another 4 weeks to take them down.
Wow.
So we're looking at 12 weeks or 3 months out of the year. We're dealing with Christmas lights as part of the garden.
Got it. But it's well worth it. Thank you.
It is. It's worth the laughs and the laughter of all the kids coming in to see the lights.
Yes, and the wonder when they see these big cacti lit up. It's so cool.
People are amazed.
Yes.
We have people who come back year after year.
Absolutely. It's a family tradition, especially here for those who have grown up in Las Vegas. Yes. A lot of those people have come out when they were little, singing in choirs, and now they're bringing their kids. Yeah.
And you know, we have people from Arizona who come over every year just to see the lights.
Yeah, it's amazing. So Steve, we've covered lots of ground, but I think this one area is maybe your favorite. Is that right?
It is. The golden barrels, because of their flexibility and their use here in the valley, this is one of my favorite areas because of the high concentration of golden barrels we have, and at night especially. These are bright red. Although they're golden right now, they're bright red. You know, it's not one of the hardest to decorate, but it is one of the most vibrant areas.
Absolutely. I love watching people's eyes when they stumble across this. It's just really neat.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's really cool.
You know, if you've got golden barrels at home, decorate them. They're amongst the easiest. If you're going to decorate anything, though, don't do your choyas. Your choyas are going to poke you like needles.
Okay, good to know.
Your agaves will cause damage to your agaves because of way down the leaves of the agaves. But everything else, whether it be a golden barrel, a prickly pear of any type, those are great. They're great to decorate.
Got it.
I do recommend, though, you have some thick gloves on, some thick pants, and a really thick shirt.
Good idea.
Doesn't matter how thick they are, it's still going to get you.
Good idea. Well, thanks. This has been a great tour. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
and Mark walk you through your tasting, I wanted to give you an exclusive look at our garden from what was once Forrest Mars Sr.'s private balcony. If you're not familiar with who that is, Forrest and his father Frank started the Mars Chocolate Company, which is known for making Skittles, Twix, M&Ms, Milky Way, all of your favorites. In 1976, Forrest retired from that company and moved to Henderson in search of a warmer climate. While he was here, he saw a market for gourmet box chocolates and started making chocolate again, this time using his mother Ethel's recipes that date back to 1911. A few years later, in 1981, he opened this very factory and retail store, naming it Ethel M. Chocolates in his mother's honor. And he actually lived above the factory up until his retirement in 1993. Although he retired from the company, we are still Mars family owned, which means we are very passionate about the environment. That's why we have 4.4 acres and over 2,000 solar garden panels just behind our cactus garden, which powers our factory during its peak production hours. I'll let you all enjoy the view a little bit more. While you do, let me know which piece you're most excited to try down below in the comments. So again, out of all the pieces sitting in front of you right now, let us know what you're most excited to try, and I'll have Mark start out with that piece. Enjoy your tasting.
Hi everyone, I'm Mark Mackey, and I'm so excited to be back with you all tonight for our virtual chocolate tasting, where we're not only going to be tasting some delicious chocolate, but also learning a bit about the journey that this cocoa bean took from the pod into the delicious pieces that you see in front of you. Now, since we're going to be tasting two different collections tonight, I've brought along a special friend to help. I'd like to introduce Tammy Jo French, who is one of our head Ethel M chocolatiers, and she's actually been with us for over 20 years. Tammy Jo?
Hi everybody, good evening. Thank you guys again so much for joining us. So as Mark was saying, I've been here for 20 years. I have lots of experience in eating chocolate, and so tonight Mark and I are going to be walking you through a chocolate journey. We're going to be using all of our senses to really understand and enjoy all of the chocolate in front of us tonight. So we're going to be talking about touch. How does it feel? What is the texture of it? Is it bumpy? Is it smooth? Does it have a glossy finish? We're going to be talking about smell. What aromas are you getting when you smell your piece? Can you smell the inside before we bite into it? Really think about all of those flavors and aromas that you're getting. Then we're going to do the taste, where we're going to take a bite, we're going to chew a couple times, and just let it linger and just let it melt on your palate and really think about the texture and taste. What is the aftertaste? What did you notice first? And think about all of those flavor notes that you're getting. And then, of course, we're going to finish the piece. And as you guys are finishing it, we're going to give you some fun facts about how chocolate is created. We also have a placemat for you guys, so go ahead and look down at your placemat, and you'll notice there's different category on your placemat for each sensory that we're going to be going through. We also have a flavor wheel. That flavor wheel is going to help you identify what flavors you're noticing in each piece. And we're going to talk about the different highlighted pieces on the flavor wheel that each piece falls into. So without further ado, let's get into the chocolate eating. I'm going to hand it back to Mark. He's going to walk us through our first pieces.
Thanks, Tammy Jo. So if you all have our Holiday Classics 5-piece, that's the piece or the collection on my left here, we're going to start with the white chocolate peppermint silk piece. And if you have our classic 5-piece sampler, we're going to start with the milk chocolate sea salt caramel. So I'll start with the white chocolate peppermint silk piece. If you pick this piece up, the first thing you're going to notice is this beautiful red color. This is actually achieved by taking an airbrush and actually spraying the piece with colored cocoa butter. You're going to see that delicious glossy shine on the outside. If you flip it over, you'll see the white chocolate below. Our milk chocolate sea salt caramel piece, you'll see a really nice, beautiful light brown color. You'll notice this is a enrobed piece, which is a fancy term that we use in the industry for a chocolate covered piece, as opposed to a molded piece, which the white chocolate peppermint silk is. You'll notice that delicious, beautiful gray sea salt on top. That's going to give us a little bit of texture when we go to eat the piece. So go ahead and pick up both of your pieces, and I'm going to start with the white chocolate peppermint silk and actually bring it up to your nose and kind of cup your nose or your hand around the piece while you take a nice deep breath in. And what I like to do sometimes is kind of rub the bottom of the piece. That's going to soften the chocolate just a little bit and really start to activate some of those aroma compounds and bring all those really nice nuances of the chocolate forward. Breathe in nice and deep, and you should be getting a lot of really nice creamy dairy notes, aromas, and some of that mint that's coming through the chocolate piece as well. Now, what you may not notice is, or smell, is actually any like chocolate essence or roasted cocoa, and that's because this is a white chocolate piece, so it does not contain any of the cocoa solids. And we'll go into that in a bit. With our milk chocolate sea salt caramel, why don't we try that one next. I'm going to rub the bottom a little bit, soften the chocolates slightly. Breathe in nice and deep, and with this one you are going to get some of those nice roasted cocoa notes, dairy, some of that beautiful caramel kind of coming through the piece a little bit, maybe even a little bit of vanilla. And if you smell a little bit of that salt, it almost smells a little bit like an ocean breeze. It's really quite nice. Now we'll taste. So I'll start with the peppermint silk piece here. What I'm going to do is take a bite, and then I'm going to use my teeth and bite just a few times and use my tongue and press the piece up against the roof of my mouth. And that's going to start the melting process. And we'll do that with each of the pieces to kind of set a benchmark for the way that it melts, so we can determine and kind of figure out the melting curve or the melting process of each one and the amount of time it actually takes to melt. Take a bite. See that delicious center. Right away you're going to taste that white chocolate ganache on the inside that's going to start to melt really nicely. This is actually going to melt the fastest of any of the pieces that we tried tonight. So try to think about how quickly it's melting. Right away you're going to get that really nice mint flavor coming forward, dairy notes, milk, obviously the peppermint, a little bit of vanilla as well, and maybe just a hint of caramel actually. You know, when we make this piece, we make it using a chocolate ganache or traditional ganache process. And in doing that, we actually heat the cream up to just below boiling. And in that process, you actually potentially caramelize a little bit of the lactose that's in the cream. And so it can develop some of those really nice caramel flavors. Aftertaste is going to be just a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of that mint kind of remaining with us as well. But overall, just a nice little bit of sweetness. I'm going to cleanse my palate here with a little bit of milk, and I will step into our milk chocolate sea salt caramel. So with this piece, what I'd like to recommend, actually turn the piece upside down. And what we're going to do, we're going to bite it and let it kind of sit on our tongue. Let that salt dissolve. That's going to dissolve and kind of bring a little bit of salinity forward and enhance a lot of the caramel flavors that we're going to taste in this piece. So let's try that now. Just let it kind of sit on your tongue. Notice that really beautiful chewy caramel. Once the salt is no longer granular on your tongue, go ahead and bite into the piece, chew it a little bit. First, you're going to have that delicious creamy milk chocolate that's going to melt. Dairy, roasted cocoa notes. A little bit of caramel, a little like caramelized milk. And then chocolate will start to kind of fade away a little bit. And you're going to get that really nice buttery vanilla caramel that forms the center of this piece. Aftertaste with this one, you might notice just a little bit of bitterness from that caramelized sugar and sweetness as well, and a bit of that vanilla remaining from the milk chocolate. Now, to make our sea salt caramel, we actually start by taking sugar butter and cream, and we heat all those ingredients up to about 239 degrees. So we're developing a beautiful caramelization, a beautiful caramel in that center. And then we're going to cool it, add a touch of sea salt and vanilla, and then we're going to mix those ingredients in and cool them down to about body temperature on our temperature controlled cooling tables. We're going to cool those down nice and slowly. Then we're going to hand cut each piece, enrobe it in our delicious Ethel milk chocolate, and we're going to garnish each piece with just a little sprinkling of French gray sea salt. It actually gets its gray color from the clay in the bay in Brittany, France that it is crystallized on. And with our white chocolate peppermint ganache, I forgot to mention this piece. This piece starts out with, again, a chocolate ganache. We're going to take that cream, heat it up just below boiling. Then we're going to take that cream and we're going to pour it onto our tempered white chocolate. And that's going to melt, come down in temperature and melt together really nice and beautifully. And then we're going to put it into our vacuum kettles and mix it. So we pull all the air out of that ganache center. So what we're left with is just the perfect texture. It's really creamy, melts really beautifully on our tongue. And at the last moment, we're going to add a little bit of butter and, of course, the peppermint extract, natural peppermint extract into this piece to finish that ganache center. All right, hopefully you all enjoyed that. And if you'd like to, on your placemat, go ahead and take some notes if you'd wish, or if you'd like to, and we will jump over to Tammy Jo for our next two pieces.
Alrighty, so the pieces that we're going to be trying are our pecan pie and our pecan caramel rapture. So delicious, both nutty. All right, let's dive on into the pecan pie first. All right, so we're going to talk about the texture of it. So it's really shiny, right? Again, it's going to be a molded piece. And this one's really unique because it has that really beautiful like copper color with that golden yellow speckle on top. Just kind of a nice color pop. It's so beautiful. It's like a piece of jewelry, right? But we're going to eat it. So let's go ahead and take a deep breath in and smell it a couple times. And see if you can smell the pecan inside. Go ahead and rub it on the bottom. Usually I can't smell it, but today I do smell those delicious roasted pecans. So I have a fun little nose trick for you guys if you want to try it. If you don't, that's okay too. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to hold our nose shut, and then we're going to take our bite, chew a couple times, push it up to the roof of our mouth so it starts to melt, and then we're going to release our nose. And what's going to happen is it's going to kind of hit you all at once. All of the flavor notes are going to kind of come rushing back. So it's really kind of quite fun to do. So I'm going to try that. If you guys want to, you can try it with me. So let's smell one more time. And we're going to hold our nose shut while we're taking a bite and chewing. Wow, that is so amazing. Like you can taste the pecans. They're like kind of hidden there. Like you don't notice it at first, and then all of a sudden it comes rushing at you. It's so good. And I love the creamy texture. This is also a ganache. So the difference between this ganache and the one that we had earlier is the pecan butter. So as you guys are enjoying that, I'm going to tell you about how this piece was created. So this piece again is a molded piece. It is a ganache, so we melt down the coins by pouring over the heavy whipping cream and melting it all in and getting it ready. And then as that cools, we add this delicious pecan butter. We take California pecans, we grind that up into a pecan butter, which alone by itself sounds amazing. And then we're going to add that into the ganache as it cools down. Then we're going to fold in the softened butter and some vanilla extract and bring in all of those flavors, maybe a touch of salt to bring up, excuse me, to bring out the pecans, which, oh, so good. I loved how it melted on your palate. So what did you guys notice first when you tasted it? Like for me, I definitely noticed the nutty right away. Definitely goes into dairy and a little bit of the sweet aromatics for sure. I'm gonna cleanse my palate, and now we're gonna try our pecan caramel rapture. So this one is where the one we're going to try for our classic collection. Again, we're going to rub it to warm it up so you can really smell the inside. With this one, I definitely smell some vanilla, I smell butter, I smell those roasted pecans. All right, and if you want to do the nose trick, feel free to do that with this one too. It's going to work with any of them if you want to try that again. But I'm going to go ahead and take a bite. This one's a little chewy, so take your time, let it melt, take that moment. And believe it or not, we're also using our hearing, because when you bite into it, you can hear like the different texture of how those nuts are kind of crumbling underneath each bite. So for me, what I noticed first is like the butteriness of the caramel. My favorite thing about this piece is that it's not sticky caramel. It's just like a really soft, pleasant, kind of melts in your mouth. But it's also very chewy, so the texture is just phenomenal on this piece. And I love little bits of pecans that are in there. So guys, as you guys are enjoying this piece, I'm going to talk to you about how this piece was created. So this piece is an enrobed piece. You'll notice that this one had more of a matte finish instead of a shiny, glossy finish. And the reason for that is because it went through the enrobing process. So basically, we heat up our caramel in the copper kettle gas heater. We heat it up to about 239 degrees. And then when it's ready, it's going to start caramelizing. We know it's ready to go. We're going to pour it into a machine that's going to deposit it on top of a bed of the caramel. Is going to kind of like lay down on this bed of pecans. And what's going to happen is as it solidifies, it kind of like gathers the nuts that it's laying on. So each rapture kind of has a snowflake design. There is no two alike. They're all going to be kind of random, which is really cool. From there, it's going to solidify. They're going to put the clusters on the conveyor belt. It's going to go through this curtain of chocolate, and the tank pumps the chocolate up into the trough, creating the curtain so it's constantly flowing so nothing's wasted. From there, it'll go through the cooling tunnel. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely want to check out the garden again. So let's go back to Lauren and see what that view looks like.
That chocolate looks so good, but honestly, I'm not mad about being out here enjoying the view. We have over 1.5 million lights this year on 3.3 acres of land and over 300 species of cactus. And this is actually our 27th annual lighting ceremony, so we didn't want to miss out on bringing you this holiday tradition. Even though some of you may not be able to make it out this year, we are so thankful that you let us and Tammy Jo and Mark into your home for a little bit tonight. Hope you enjoy the rest of your chocolate tasting experience. Back to you, Mark and Tammy Jo.
Wow, the garden is looking beautiful. Now, I'd like to take a few minutes and talk to you guys a little bit about where chocolate comes from. I'm going to break up the whole process across a few of the pieces that we'll be trying tonight to give our taste buds just a little bit of a break to refresh for the next piece. All real chocolate starts out from a cocoa bean inside of a cocoa pod, which is what I have right here. Now, the interesting thing about cocoa, actually one of the interesting things, is that it only grows about 20 degrees north and south of the equator. It really requires a tropical environment and a lot of humidity in which to thrive. Now, our Ethel M chocolates actually contain a blend of specialty cocoa beans, which we get from Ecuador, Brazil, and West Africa. Cocoa pods actually grow, it's actually the fruit of the cocoa tree, and they all grow not only on the branches of the tree, but they actually congregate and grow on the trunk of the tree, which you can see in the photo on this slide. It's really quite interesting when you think about, the fruit and the fact that it's growing on the trunk. It's kind of unique in that sense. And another way, or actually the pods themselves actually have to be hand harvested. The farmers will go, they'll have their machete, and they're gonna cut those pods from the tree and gather them up when they're ripe and ready to be harvested. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and do that. This is a fresh cocoa pod that I got from Brazil, I'm sorry, Ecuador, and it's of the Nacional variety. And I'm actually gonna cut this one open to share with you guys, show you exactly what that looks like. You can see all those cocoa beans inside, but they don't really look like chocolate, do they? They're covered by this pulp, actually, which it's actually quite sweet. It has a flavor that's similar to a lychee, kind of like a cross between a lychee and a pineapple. And although the pulp that I'm trying right now, it's sweet, it actually has a really nice flavor. Although that doesn't taste anything like chocolate, it actually is going to help serve a very important purpose in the chocolate making process, and that is to help aid fermentation. So fermentation is very important in the development of these sweet, fruity and floral nuances in our cocoa beans. And what's gonna happen is this pulp is gonna kind of break down a little bit. It's gonna develop those fruity and floral characteristics via chemical reaction in the actual bean itself. And what's gonna happen is over about 5 to 7 days, this pulp is gonna turn from a white color to a brown color as it kind of ages a bit. Farmers actually going to be mixing that up. We want to make sure all those beans get a really thorough and even fermentation throughout to really develop all those flavors that we're looking for in our finished chocolate. So as I said, that takes about 5 to 7 days. And after that occurs, we're actually going to sun dry the beans before they're packed up and shipped to us in the United States. We want to make sure those beans get dried out. We don't want any mold or anything growing on the beans. We want them to be perfect for us to receive into our factory in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania for roasting. So I think for now, we'll let our beans kind of chill out a little bit. They're gonna get a little bit of a tan and relax while we jump back to our chocolate. So, put my beans aside here. And grab our next 2 pieces, which will be our white chocolate pumpkin pie piece here. That is in our Holiday Classics 5-piece. And our milk chocolate almond butter crisp piece, which is this piece here, covered in this beautiful copper colored foil. So I'll start with the white chocolate peppermint pie, white chocolate pumpkin pie piece. You'll see, similar to the peppermint silk piece, you'll see that really nice, beautiful colored cocoa butter on the outside. This is a nice orange color to signify it's for our pumpkin. And you'll see a nice little red, ruby red speckle on top of that piece as well. And our almond butter crisp, this is one of our original recipes. I'm gonna unwrap this one. Unwrap that copper foil, and you're gonna see this beautiful piece below. This is a toffee, an almond toffee that actually contains 2 different types of almonds. A butter roasted almond inside of the toffee, and then this raw almond diced that's on the outside of the piece. Back to our pumpkin pie piece. I'm gonna flip this over, and again, just kind of rub the bottom a little bit. Soften the chocolate slightly. Bring that up to our nose. And you should be getting some of those white chocolate notes, a lot of dairy, vanilla, sweet aromas. And then some of that pumpkin should be kind of coming through again. Just a hint of that. Now I'll jump over to the almond butter crisp. This one you don't have to rub. Just bring that up to your nose. Breathe in nice and deep. You're gonna get that beautiful, just really nice, almost buttery note from the raw almonds. These are actually chopped very fine and coated or stuck to the piece with just a little bit of milk chocolate that I'll go into in a second. But it's really quite a nice difference from like the traditional roasted almond flavor and aroma that you would notice, and actually this raw almond as well. They're the same ingredient but treated 2 different ways, and so they actually have very different aromas and flavors. All right, jump over to the pumpkin pie, take a bite. You might be able to hear the snap, a little bit of a snap from that white chocolate shell. You can see inside, delicious chocolate ganache, chocolate pumpkin ganache. So right away, you're gonna be getting those spices, some of that pumpkin flavor coming through, cinnamon, clove, maybe a little nutmeg and ginger. Again, this piece is gonna melt, or the center will melt relatively quickly, not quite as quick as the white chocolate peppermint. But noticing those pumpkin flavors coming through, then the white chocolate shell is gonna melt and introduce a little more sweetness, kind of cut that spice a little bit, give us some more dairy notes and maybe a little bit of vanilla as well. Now this piece starts out, again, with a chocolate ganache center, but instead of making it with white chocolate, we're actually gonna add a little bit of milk chocolate to this as well. And then we're gonna fold in really all of the ingredients that you would use to make pumpkin pie. Pumpkin puree, cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, ginger, allspice. We're gonna add all those ingredients and fold them together. And then we're gonna cool that ganache down and deposit it into the center of our mold, which we're going to create a shell with white chocolate. And the outside is actually going to be sprayed with, again, that orange colored cocoa butter with just a spritz of red to kind of give a nice little contrast. Aftertaste with this one, you're gonna have just a little bit of sweetness with some of those spices kind of remaining with you as well. Jump over to the almond butter crisp. Go ahead and take a bite. This one, you're absolutely gonna notice that snap and crunch when you bite into it. Look at the center. You can see all those butter roasted almonds there in the center, and of course on the outside, that thin layer of milk chocolate. Chew a few times. A lot of dairy, caramelized sugar coming forward. Almond flavor. Even a slight woodiness from some of those roasted almonds. Not too much chocolate, a little bit, as I said, just really highlighting the toffee notes and the almond notes in this piece. And you'll get some of those maybe slight buttery notes coming from not just the actual butter in the toffee, but also in the almonds as well. Now this piece is actually a butter, as I mentioned, a butter almond toffee or butter almond brittle. And it's made in our copper kettles, kind of similar to how we make our caramel. But instead of heating the ingredients up to 239 degrees, we're gonna bring it all the way up to 300 degrees. So we're gonna be developing a lot more of intense brown flavors and caramel flavors, a little bit more bitterness in this piece as well. We're gonna add our almonds. They're gonna get nice and butter roasted in that mixture. Add a hint of salt to enhance the flavor. And then we're gonna let it cool, and we're gonna bring it down on our temperature controlled cooling tables. Gonna hand cut the piece. And as I mentioned before, we're actually going to hand coat each in just a small amount of milk chocolate that you saw on the outside of there. And then dip each piece and kind of toss it in those raw diced almonds. It's gonna give just that really nice texture to the outside and some of that butteriness. And aftertaste with this piece, you should notice a little bit of that almond flavor kind of residual, or kind of sticking with you a little bit. Maybe a little bit of bitterness from the caramelized sugar as well. I'm gonna take a sip of water, and now I'll pass it back to Tammy Jo to lead us through our next few pieces.
All right, I hope you guys are ready because we're diving into the dark side of chocolate. The next two pieces we're going to be trying there are eggnog from our holiday collection and one raspberry satin cream. Look at that delicious. Alright, we're going to start with our eggnog. So again, this one has a molded piece, and this one
You're getting like the roasted notes as well. I think I might do the nose trick on this one too, because I'm interested to see how you're going to taste the different spices in the eggnog. So let's go ahead and do that. Wow. It's interesting how it comes out in waves. Like, for me, I noticed like the eggnog part, I noticed like the cinnamon, and then I noticed bourbon, and then I noticed the rum, and then all of the spices, just like the cinnamon and the allspice and the clove. Definitely has nutmeg in there too. So good. So this one, how this one is created, again, it's in that molding process. So let's talk a little bit about the one-shot depositor and how that's created. So basically there are two tanks. One will have the filling and one will have the chocolate shell, and they intertwine with nozzles. The inside nozzle connects to the filling and the outside nozzle connects to the chocolate shell. And then it does the filling and shell all in one shot. And that's kind of how that process works. So with this one, it is a ganache again, but it's going to have an eggnog and the spices into it. So what they do is they cool down the ganache, and then they're going to fold in the bourbon, the rum, all of the spices, a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of salt, and that's going to bring out all of the flavors. This one is so good. All right, let's go back to the raspberry. Pardon me. I'm a very messy eater because I love chocolate and it always gets all over my face. All right, I'm going to cleanse my palate really quick. Okay, let's try the next one. This one is our raspberry satin cream. So this one's really cool. It has that dark chocolate shell, but it also has a milk chocolate drizzle on it. So you could even get maybe some caramelized flavors from the milk chocolate that's drizzled on the top of this. So let's go ahead and rub the bottom of it to warm it up, and then take a deep breath into that chocolate. Now I know it's raspberry, but for some reason whenever I smell it, I smell cherry, and it could also be coming from the dark chocolate as well. So sometimes it has like a different fruity note to it, but you can definitely smell that it's going to be fruity inside. All right, so let's go ahead and take a bite. So right away you'll notice like the tartness of the raspberry, the sweetness, the butter and the buttercream, and a lot of that dark roasted chocolate as well. So the way this one is made, we use the copper kettle gas heaters, and we heat up the buttercream, and then we put it in the cream beater to cool it down. And as it's cooling, it's going to cool it down to just the right temperature, and then they're going to add the Oregon raspberries to the cream beater. And it's really interesting to watch because when they put the buttercream in the cream beater, it actually almost looks like caramel. And then they put the puree, the raspberries inside, and when it mixes in, it kind of gets like this really thick, fluffy pink color that you see inside your piece. It's really, really cool to watch when you come to the factory. From there, it's going to go through a machine called the extruder that's going to make mounds of raspberry on the conveyor belt. And then from there, it's going to go through the enrobing machine and get covered on all sides. And then from there, there's another machine called the stripping machine, and depending on how fast the conveyor belt moves and how the stripping machine shakes will determine the design on top of your piece, and that kind of helps identify the chocolate. All right, so I'm going to hand it back to Mark. He's going to give us some more really cool fun facts about how chocolate is created.
Thanks, Tammy Jo. Well, I think we last left our cocoa beans getting a little bit of a suntan, kind of hanging out a little bit. Now the next part is actually very, very important, and that's going to be a quality check on the beans. So as I mentioned, we're focused on proper fermentation. We want to make sure that those cocoa beans get properly fermented to develop all of those fruity and floral and those really unique flavors that we're looking for in our cocoa beans. And so we're actually going to inspect them. We're going to take the beans and actually place them into a box with a little slot for each bean. We're going to close it and we're going to actually cut each bean in half because we want to look at the center. And you'll see a photo on your slide there of two beans on the left that are properly fermented. Those are even coloration throughout. Those have the fermentation that we're looking for. And the beans on the right are actually under fermented. You'll notice that color, that variation in color. Those we would actually reject. We would not use them for our delicious Ethel chocolate because they're not going to give us all of what we want. We'll let another chocolate company buy those, but for us, we're really focused on that proper fermentation that you see on the left. So once the beans actually are inspected, they pass our quality check. Now we're actually going to ship them to our roasting facility in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. And we're actually going to roast those beans and bring out even more delicious flavor. So similar to how coffee is actually roasted, we're going to roast our beans in a similar process. So you can get light roast, medium roast, dark roast coffee. We do the same with cocoa beans depending on the actual finished chocolate or specification or recipe that we're trying to create. Each roast, actually each variety of bean too, can really, is best with a different roast profile and time and temperature. So we're going to select that recipe and that amount of roast based on the recipe and the type of beans that we're using. And here I actually have some freshly roasted cocoa beans. I'm going to hold up one here. So you can see there is a little bit of a shell on the outside of the bean here. That I'm actually going to pull this shell off. This shell doesn't serve us really any purpose in chocolate making. We don't want that shell on there. So once we remove it, you're going to see this is called the nib, or the shelled cocoa bean. You can see how it kind of has some cracking to it already. It's kind of been cracked. And in fact, if I just apply a little bit of pressure to it, it's going to break up in my hand just like that. Now, once this bean is broken up, this is when we would refer to it as a cocoa nib. And this is essentially kind of the purest form of chocolate, I think. Here, I've actually got some nibs over here. But these are great. These, as I said, there's no sugar. These you can add to your salad over ice cream and your brownies. It adds a really nice textural component, and again, that really kind of intense chocolate flavor, which is really quite neat. And something interesting about these is, these are actually about 50% fat. And so when we grind them up, we're actually going to start to liquefy some of that fat, and we're going to start to see what looks like finished chocolate. So you'll see a photo on your slide there. We're going to grind up these nibs. Some of the cocoa butter, which is the fat in chocolate, that's going to be released. We're going to start to see this beautiful, what we refer to as chocolate liquor, which is an industry term for 100% unsweetened chocolate. We're going to see that beautiful chocolate liquor kind of forming. And now, depending on the recipe that we're going to make, we're going to add our other ingredients. So add sugar, milk powder, maybe some vanilla. If we're going to make a milk chocolate, we'll add a little bit more milk, maybe a little bit more sugar. It all really depends on the specific recipe that we're making. And in fact, if we're going to make white chocolate, we'll actually take that liquor, and under pressure, we're going to separate the cocoa butter or the fat from the cocoa powder or the cocoa solids. And to make white chocolate, we're just going to use the cocoa butter. So that's why if you see your piece, it's not quite white. It has a little bit of a yellow hint or a little tinge of yellow to it coming from that cocoa butter that comes from the nib here. Now we're going to mix all those ingredients up. If we're making milk or dark chocolate, we're going to refine those ingredients. We want to grind everything, get everything down so it's silky smooth on our tongue. It's about 10 to 13 microns for our Ethel milk chocolate. really beautiful, silky smooth. That's going to take a number of hours to achieve. But once that's done, we really only have one step between that chocolate and our finished chocolate that we'll be using to make the delicious pieces that you see in front of you. And that last step is something called tempering. So chocolate is a really unique ingredient in that you can't just heat it and expect it to kind of, work the way that you want it to. You actually have to do something called temper it, which is under a very specific time and temperature curve. You're actually heating the chocolate slightly, then you're cooling it to a certain temperature, and then you're raising the temperature back up. And in that process, you're actually developing these very stable crystal structures in the cocoa butter so that when the chocolate sets up, it has a beautiful glossy appearance on the outside. It has a nice snap when you bite into it, and has all those desirable characteristics and melting qualities that we look for in a premium chocolate like Ethel M. And so we pay a lot of attention to the tempering process. We want that to be perfectly tempered so that the chocolate has all of those amazing qualities. Some of you may know, if you've ever had chocolate that has sat in your car or maybe been exposed to the elements a little bit or melted slightly, when it re-solidifies, it has like a little bit of a haze to it. That's actually untempered or detempered chocolate that has actually had the cocoa butter become unstable, and it kind of moves toward the surface of the chocolate. And that's actually what you're seeing on the outside. That haze or that dullness is actually cocoa butter. And so we want to make sure to avoid that. We want to temper our chocolate very well so that it has all these great glossy and just very, all the great qualities that we look for in chocolate. So once that is done, now we're ready to use it. So we'll either enrobe, like Tammy Jo spoke to, or we'll mold, like we're going to do for our last two pieces here, or even pan like our almonds in a nice little panning machine that we have. We've got a few different ways that we use our chocolate. And so I think at that point, that is the last step. And I think we'll jump back over to try our last two pieces of chocolates. And that is our dark chocolate creme de menthe piece, if you have our Holiday Classics collection, and our dark chocolate lemon satin cream, which you would have if you have our classic sampler 5-piece box. I'll start with our dark chocolate creme de menthe. Pick that up. You'll see this really beautiful liquor barrel shape here in the mold. A really nice green colored cocoa butter spray along with a little white spritz to kind of signify that minty creme de menthe flavor. And on the lemon satin cream, you'll see this really nice oval shape with a lemon leaf on top. And you'll notice just again that really beautiful glossiness that is achieved through proper tempering of the chocolate. I'll take the creme de menthe piece, flip it upside down and kind of rub. You'll notice this one will actually, the dark chocolate pieces actually melt a little slower because of the additional cocoa solids that are in that. Rub that. So a little different than the milk chocolate, you're going to be getting a lot more darker, deeper roasted cocoa notes, almost like some coffee or some espresso. And some of that mint kind of coming through as well. And on the dark chocolate lemon satin cream, more of the dark roasted cocoa, again that espresso or coffee, maybe just a hint of the lemon. The shell on this piece is a little bit thicker, so sometimes that lemon flavor is kind of trapped, but we'll definitely be tasting it in a second. Pick up my creme de menthe piece, take a bite. Careful, center's a little bit soft, and you'll see beautiful creme de menthe center there. First you'll notice mint, a little bit of bite, a little warmth from the alcohol. Kind of warms you up a little bit. Some creaminess from the milk. And kind of rub it around your tongue a little bit. And then that dark chocolate's going to come in. It's going to add a little bit of bitterness, some of that roasted cocoa note, maybe some of those coffee and espresso notes. But it really just kind of covers and surrounds that mint and that alcohol and just gives it a really nice big warm hug. It really works really nicely together. So to make this piece, we actually start by creating a creamy center of milk, fondant sugar, which is actually a granulated sugar, but it's a very, very small granulation, so it actually melts or it dissolves very easily into our mixture. So milk, fondant sugar, and our creme de menthe liqueur. Then we're going to fold in some softened butter and a hint of salt to finish the center. And to do that, we're going to, well, to make the piece, we're actually going to take the center and using the single shot depositing process, actually deposit that center into, excuse me, actually deposit that center into the dark chocolate piece. And to finish, as you see, that beautiful green colored cocoa butter with that little white spritz to kind of add some nice contrast. All right, now let's go to our lemon satin cream. This is actually, I think, my favorite of our classic pieces. This is one of our original 16 recipes that we offer in our classic collection. Go ahead and take a bite and listen for the snap that you'll hear when you bite into this one. Right away, tart lemon kind of comes in your mouth. Your mouth might pucker just a little bit from some of that tartness, but hang out, wait for a second. That dark chocolate's going to come in and really cut that tartness. And again, similar to the creme de menthe, just really going to kind of surrounds that flavor and really creates a really beautiful, well-rounded dessert. Maybe get some of that citrus blossom as well. It's almost like a little bit of an orange note that kind of comes through slightly. A little bit of vanilla as well. What you'll notice with the aftertaste of these two pieces, it's actually going to be quite long when you compare it to the others, and that's because of the dark chocolate. Because of the cocoa solids and some of the tannin-like notes that are in dark chocolate, that'll actually stay with you for quite some time. So I challenge you in like 20 minutes or so, kind of like think about like, I bet you'll still taste that delicious dark chocolate on your palate. So with this piece, we actually start by taking lemon puree and we're going to blend that with some sugar, cream, and a hint of salt, and a touch of tenfold vanilla extract, which actually contains 10 times the amount of vanilla solids that you would find in a standard vanilla extract. So it's got a lot of really intense vanilla flavor and vanilla complexity going on there. We'll add a little bit of that, and then we're going to crystallize it in our cream beater, which is going to bring down the temperature of everything and allow us to crystallize the sugar so that it forms the perfect texture in our center. We're going to add a touch of salt too to bring out that naturally enhance some of the lemon notes and balance the sweetness just a little bit. And then again, using the single shot depositing process, we're going to deposit that lemon center into the dark chocolate shell and let the piece set up, ready to enjoy. So capture any final notes that you'd like to on that piece. And cleanse your palate a little bit. And that marks the end of our tasting tonight. I hope all of you had a wonderful experience. I just want to take a moment to thank all of you for joining us. I had a lot of fun tonight making and tasting chocolate with you all, and I hope you all did as well. Tammy Jo, what'd you think?
I had so much fun, and I hope you guys did too. I hope you learned a lot of new fun facts about chocolate you didn't know. And don't forget to use the code VIRTUAL to get a really cool discount on our website.
All right, I will hand it off to Viviana Dickieson, our market director, to close us out tonight. Viviana.
We hope you enjoyed this virtual presentation of Ethel M. Chocolate's 27th Holiday Cactus Garden Lighting. From our home in Las Vegas to your home, wherever it may be, good night and happy holidays.